Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's the Hindu news analysis. In today's news analysis, we'll be discussing about six important news articles covered in the Hindu newspaper today. Coming to the first article, India's rise in cases third fastest globally. With 11,220 new COVID 19 cases and 325 deaths registered on Sunday, the total number of infections and the death toll in India reached 3,32,777 and 9,521 respectively. Also, the recovery rate was nearly 51%. So, this recovery rate above 50% means that the number of recovered people are more than the number of active people presently. Also, coming to the state related statistics, the Maharashtra led the tally with 3,390 new cases and 120 deaths. Also, Delhi registered 2,224 cases and 56 deaths. So, these are the worst affected areas as of now. And coming to the country-wise tally, India now ranks third behind Brazil and US in daily increase in COVID-19 cases. If we consider the number of cases which increased per day for the last 7 days, if we consider that statistics, then India comes third behind US and Brazil in case of the daily increase tally. Now, coming to the total number of cases, India ranks fourth in terms of the total number of cases behind US. US has really nearly 2.1 million cases. Brazil has 8,50,000 cases. Russia has 5,28,000 cases. And coming to India, it has around more than 3 lakh cases, right? Also, there is another area of concern, that is, even though India's number of cases are increasing, the number of tests are very much less compared to other countries which are facing the pandemic. For example, here you can see that India conducts around 3,000 tests per million, which is very less compared to other countries. Like for example, US is conducting 70,000 tests per million population, Russia is conducting 99,000 tests per million population, and the UK is conducting around 55,000 tests per million population. Compared to these countries, India's test is very less, like 3,000 per million population. So this is a cause of concern. So here you can see a graph related to the increase, the graph which depicts the increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in a state-wise manner. So here you can see Maharashtra. Uh, Here you can see the daily number, the graph and the daily increase is being shown here. So here you can see that Maharashtra has a daily increase of 3,390 cases in the last 24 hours. Then comes Delhi with 2,224 cases increase per number. Then Tamil Nadu also having 1,974 cases in the last 24 hours. So these are the three main affected states in the country. Coming to the next news article, it's again related to COVID 19. ICMR study plots mid November peak. So, we all were thinking when the peak might happen. Like, we can see that the peak is not at all coming. The cases are increasing day by day, and new peaks are being established daily. So, there does not seem to be a reduction in the cases after a peak. So, the ICMR is now predicting that this peak, after which the cases might reduce, will come in mid November. So that is what the peak stage of the COVID-19 in India has been delayed by the 8-week long lockdown along with strengthened public health measures, and it may now arrive around mid November when a possibility of isolation and ICU beds and ventilators can arise, says the study. So the study has been conducted by the Operation Research Group constituted by the ICMR. So here the article also discusses about some statistics which are related to the positive effects of the lockdown, how the lockdown was able to shift the peak, how the lockdown was able to reduce the mortality and the total number of infections. So some statistics have been written here. So how can this be used in the exam? One is it can be used in mains and especially for interview purpose. This article is very important from the interview purpose to say an answer related to the effectiveness of the lockdown. So the statistics from this article can be used in the interview purpose to give a good answer on the effectiveness of lockdown. So delayed by lockdown. The lockdown has shifted the peak by an estimated 34 days to 76 days. So this much gap, we got this extra time to prepare for this peak. So that is a positive effect of this lockdown. Also, the number of infections reduced by 69% and 97%. That is also a very great number. In a scenario of intensified public health measures with 60% effectiveness after the lockdown, then the demand for the treatment facilities can be met until the first week of November. So, till November, India's medical facilities are ready. But after that, there will be some crunch of the medical infrastructure. So, that is what the article is telling. If you are able to maintain only 60% effectiveness, but it also says that if the coverage of health measures can be increased to 80%, then the epidemic can be mitigated. So that is another statistics. Also, however, this shortfall is estimated to be 83% less than what it could have been without the lockdown and public health measures. So this also is a statistic which says about the positive impact of the lockdown. And coming to mortality rates, approximately 60% deaths were prevented due to this lockdown. This is the biggest and the best statistics which are related to the positive impact of the lockdown. That is 60% reduction of the mortality, right? Now, coming to the next news article, Supreme Court to extend virtual court system amid COVID-19 fears. So, a committee of Supreme Court judges led by N.V. Ramana has decided to continue the virtual court system and not revert to physical hearings given the alarming growth in the COVID-19 cases. So, we all know that after the COVID-19 cases has increased, the court has shifted to a virtual hearings of the urgent cases, right? On June 2nd, the court agreed to explore the feasibility of physical appearances of advocates while adhering to physical distancing norms. So it has been hearing urgent cases through the video conference, and this mechanism is called as the virtual court system, right? So the possibility of resuming the physical hearings are being considered, but given the increase in the COVID-19 pandemic, the it will be a bad idea to start the physical hearing as soon as like in the coming days, because court is a usually a crowded places, and there are a good chance of infection spreading inside the courts, right? But there are some issues which are being faced by the advocates here. The advocates, many majority of the lawyers feel that they cannot effectively present their arguments at virtual hearings. So the lawyers are wanting to shift the hearings back to the in a physical manner, in the normal manner. So the way forward here is to continue the virtual court system till the COVID-19 gets over, right? Till the COVID-19 pandemic subsides, the virtual court hearing should continue, and after that, the court can resume. The court have to resume back to this physical hearing, right? So that is a way forward. Coming to the next news article, India looks to deploy naval liaisons. So after joining the Indian Ocean Commission as observer in March, so this is a prelims, very important prelims related fact. India has joined the Indian Ocean Commission as an observer in this March. So India is looking to post navy liaison officers at the Regional Maritime Information Fusion Center in Madagascar, and also the European Maritime Surveillance Initiative in the Strait of Hormuz for improved maritime domain awareness. So here there are a lot of facts which are related to from the prelims perspective. One is the Strait of Hormuz. So what is a strait? What is a strait? Coming back to the basics of geography, strait is a narrow body of water which connects two major bodies of water, right? Two big bodies of water connected by a narrow passage of water. That is called a strait, right? So coming to the Strait of Hormuz, what is Strait of Hormuz? Strait of Hormuz is a narrow passage of water which connects two water bodies. So which all are those two water bodies? They are the Persian Gulf and the Strait of the Gulf of Oman. Okay, so Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Now, coming to another prelims related fact here, it is the international organization called the Indian Ocean Commission. So, we'll see some basics about the Indian Ocean Commission, which is very important from the prelims perspective. The Indian Ocean Commission is an intergovernmental organization that links African Indian Ocean nations. So, which are the members of this Indian Ocean Commission? There are only five members here. They are Comoros, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, and Seychelles. So this reunion is an overseas region of France, which is also called as French Reunion, right? So these are the five countries: Comoros, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, and Seychelles. Also, there are seven observers in this IOC, including China, India, Japan, European Union, United Nations, etc. So there are seven observers and five members of this Indian Ocean Commission. Coming to the formation of the Indian Ocean Commission, it was formed in 1982 in Port Louis in Mauritius, and it is an intergovernmental organization. We already discussed it, and it has mainly four objectives. They are the political and diplomatic cooperation, economic and commercial cooperation, sustainable development in a globalization context, strengthening of regional cultural identity, cooperation culture, scientific, technical, education, and judicial field. So these objectives you don't have to by heart anyway. So here the main objective which you have to think is like, it's mostly related to freedom of trade, freedom of navigation and all in the Indian Ocean region, especially in the areas around Strait of Hormuz and all. Okay, so that is these are some of the prelims related fact which you have to learn. Also, we talked about this regional maritime information fusion center. It functions under the aegis of the Indian Ocean Commission, of which India became an observer in March 2020 along with Japan and United Nations. The IOC is a regional forum in the Southwest Indian Ocean comprising of five nations. We already discussed this. China and European Union have been observers in the IOC since 2016 and 17 respectively. So seven observers and five members. You don't have to uh, by heart the name of the observer, but ensure that you remember India is an observer, China is also an observer. So these two facts you can learn. Also, you can also learn the five countries which are members of this organization. So the main aim of any of these kind of organizations related to oceans are to monitor the maritime activity and guarantee freedom of navigation. In this case of IOC, it is the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. So in case of Quad, there's another organization called Quad, right? So Quad, where India, Australia, US and Japan are members. So there the main aim is to ensure free and open Indo-Pacific, right? So most of these organizations are focusing on the maritime domain as of now. So the politics of the world has shifted again back to the maritime domain as of now, as we can see from the uh, increased focus shifting from the transatlantic to Indo-Pacific, right? So this any organization which are related to Indian Ocean will become more important from the prelims perspective. So please go through the other organizations related to Indian Ocean. Also also you have to learn whether India is a member of those organizations or not. So that is the prelims related fact. Coming to the editorial of the day, no longer special. So this is related to the India-Nepal relation, which is going from bad to worse in the recent days. So the only government's decision to pass the constitutional amendment ratifying a change in this map that include Lipulekh, Kalapani, and Limpiadhura territories that India controls marks a decidedly new phase and ties. So we know that the Nepal has created a new map which includes Indian region like Lipulekh, Kalapani, and Limpiadhura territories under the Nepal territories. Like, and now what happened is they have even passed the constitutional amendment, the second constitutional amendment of the Nepali constitution, which constitutionalizes this new map of Nepal, right? So this is a new development which happened in Nepal, which has a great potential to ruin the ties between India and Nepal. So while the issue is an old one, it resurfaced in 2019 when New Delhi published new political maps to reflect the changes following the decision on August 5 to reorganize the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and Nepal objected to the depiction of the disputed territories. So what happened is, we all know that Article 370 was scrapped last year, and Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act was passed, and the new political map of Jammu and Kashmir as two separate territories of Jammu and Kashmir and as a union territory of Ladakh, it was created, right? So at that point of time, Nepal had objected to the new map, telling that these three areas, Limpiathura, Kalapani, and Lipulekh, were marked as Indian territories. So that has created issues, and Nepal had objected to the depiction of this. So in 2000 and 2014, India and Nepal tried to hold talks about Kalapani and Susta. So these are the two main areas where India and Nepal are having issues. So 98% of India Nepal border issues are being solved, but these two issues are still remaining. Also, the issue between India and Nepal has been worsened by when an Indian army chief, General Naravane, suggested it was at the behest of China. So this was a very bad thing to be said by a responsible official, right? So this in fact affects the Indian army also, because we all know that Indian army also has a Gurkha regiment which recruits soldiers from Nepal. So given the fact that when a general says that, so that has a negative impact on the relations between India and Nepal. Also, while New Delhi contends that it was willing to discuss matters at a mutually convenient date, Kathmandu said the Ministry of External Affairs has rejected the dates suggested by the Nepal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and has routinely dismissed requests from Nepal ambassador to meet with foreign secretary. So the Nepal is telling that Nepal had tried to talk to India at multiple times, but India was rejecting it, either rejecting it or postponing it. So the Ministry of External Affairs, what was the stand of India? So India's stand was that the Kalapani talks could wait until both countries had dealt with the coronavirus pandemic first. So this is the right, I mean, this is a right reason, right? Let us first finish off this pandemic first. Then we'll think about the border issues. But countries like Nepal and China seems to be utilizing this coronavirus pandemic in order to further their territorial aspirations, right? So Nepal had actually told that, so this is a flawed reason, because if India didn't wait to conduct video conferencing in bilateral and multilateral meetings. For example, India conducted video conferencing of SAARC nations. India conducted G20. India conducted a bilateral meeting with India and Australia, right? So why can't they have a video conferencing meeting with Nepal? So that was one of the reasons which Nepal told. So anyway, Mr. Oli's purposeful manner in pursuing the amendment at exactly the same time as the India-China border standoff bolsters the belief among some in New Delhi that he is speaking with confidence born from the Beijing's backing. So there are many people who think that China is playing a negative role in India-Nepal relationship, and the Nepal's newly risen confidence is due to the support by China. So there are many people, many factions of diplomats who believe in that manner. Anyway, regardless of the truth of those accusations, or who is more responsible for the downslide in the ties, the speed with which the constitutional amendment was passed has left little space for diplomacy now. If the constitutional amendment was not passed, if it was before that, there was some, it was easier for the talks to happen, for the negotiations to happen, right? Now it has already become a constitutional amendment in the Nepal. So now it becomes more serious. Like the constitutional amendment kind of permanentize it kind of says that this region belongs to Nepal. So even though it doesn't affect India, but it will definitely affect the stand of Nepal when it comes to future discussions, right? Because it's a part of constitution now. So now that the vote was unanimous should also inform New Delhi of the futility of casting Mr. Oli alone as the villain of the piece. So Mr. Oli, who's the prime minister now, he's not just the villain, but even the opposition parties have supported the constitutional amendment. So it was unanimous, right? So that is a serious concern for India, which had traditional good ties with Nepal. So there were other issues between India and Nepal in earlier years. Like for example, in 2015 there was a blockade between India and Nepal, right? Because of the drafting of the constitution, the Madhishi issue which happened. So the previous issues between India and Nepal has to be learned from the mains perspective. Okay, to write a good answer related to India and Nepal relation, the historic ties has to be read. So this the historic ties can be read. It can be divided into two categories. One is pre-independence era relation between India and Nepal. Then comes to post-independence era between India and Nepal. And in post-independence era, you can mention about the Indo-Nepal Friendship Treaty, the disaster relief which India is giving to Nepal during earthquake. Issue could also cause a security nightmare for India if it opens up other parts of the long boundary and reverses old commitments on open and unsecured border posts. So also there was another issue between India and Nepal, where Nepali police on a group has fired on a group of Indians that left one dead. So but India and Nepal was able to manage the issue in a very fast manner. The same alacrity is needed to manage the fallout of Saturday's amendment vote on on the one celebrated special relation between the two countries. So that is what this editorial talks about. Behind the curve, it's about the center which is not able to share the GST dues with the states. So the GST Council last Friday decided to relax late fees and interest payable for those taxpayers failing to file returns on time. So these are some of the measures which are taken by the GST Council to improve the compliance, improve the tax compliance, and ensure that more people pay the more businesses pay the tax, right? But given the extent of the economic damage as well the state's fiscal position in the period between the two meetings of the council, its decisions are far from sufficient. We all know that after this GST has happened, the states has become more dependent from the center for the finances. Also, there will be a compensation. The center will be providing compensation to the states for any loss in revenue till 2022. So these were some of the provisions which were agreed in the GST law which was enacted some years before, right? So as of now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has told the state representatives in the council that just 45% of the indirect tax target has been met in the past 2 months. So this is a very bad situation because usually we have a target of 1 lakh crore of GST collections per year. So but now what happened per month, sorry, so what happened is the collections have been reduced to 45% in the last 2 months. So also in the stimulus package in May, the center has enhanced the power to borrow. That is in the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, there was a provision which said that the center uh, fiscal deficit, the borrowing can be increased from the present 3% to 5%. So this will give more powers for the state to borrow. But only a part of that was completely unconditional, and a large chunk of them was contingent on the states undertaking specified reforms. So these reforms may be long pursued ideals, but whether this is the right time for prioritizing them has been questioned. So anyway, the GST compensation for the revenue shortfalls in the first 5 years of GST, that is till 2022, due to the states for December 2019 to February 2020 was released only on June 4th. So we can see that the GST compensation which the center have to give the states are being delayed as of now. So because of this, the financial capacity of the state is being badly affected, and the state have to depend on its own sources of income. For example, opening up of the beverages, right? So a beverage and bar. So this is one of the area where the state can find revenue for themselves. When the center is not giving them revenue, then the states are forced to open this alcohol bars and all, right? So that is one reason. So one of the ideas on the table, officially discussed for around 2 months, is to raise loans against future GST cess accruals in order to recompensate states. So there was an idea of taking loan in order to give the GST compensation dues to the states. So any decision on this front, along with proposed GST rate rationalizations in the textiles, footwear, and fertilizers can that were on the council's agenda can now only expected at a special meet in July. So procrastination is not the appropriate response at this arc of the curve, be it the pandemic or the economy. So the article says that at as fast as possible, the center should be giving the state its GST dues. That is this editorial talking about. So that's all for today's news video. I hope you like the video. Please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you.